Today I got the '08 Malibu. '08 Malibu is making like clunking noises, making rattling noises. It does have a P0335, which is the crank position. That code has been surfacing off and on for a while, and it now does have a rattle. And I will tell you this: this is one of those cars where I always wonder, like, how in the hell is this damn thing still running? It's like the people that neglect their cars the most tend to have the best luck with these vehicles. But now I think it's on its last leg. The car has 245,000 miles on it. I have done timing chains on these engines where the guys, they're plastic, they'll break, fall into the engine, and make a lot of slapping and rattling noises. This car strangely does not have that problem. And mind you, I've been working on this car for years. This lady neglects the hell out of this car. She's a great person. She just neglects the hell out of the car. But I think this is the last year she's probably going to have it, ending until next year. So I hope she gets something different. Now I will say, since it's a P0335, I can scope the crank sensor, but it's kind of pointless right now because it's obviously low on oil, and this vehicle has a timing chain, which the timing chain components have to utilize the oil to ensure that it has good tension. So the oil pressure is vital, especially the VVT, for the oil control actuators and the actual cam gear. So the oil control solenoids and the actuators. I said it right. So I'm gonna pull this dipstick out. There's no oil on here. There's no oil on this dipstick, and I mean, I'm gonna, if it's broke, it's broke. You see that? If it's broke, it's broke. I'm gonna start up so you can hear it. There's also a little bit of condensation buildup on the cap here, but there's no obvious signs of a blown head gasket. Now, I will say this isn't a clear indication of a blown head gasket. Some cars, if you look at like the Envoys, the valve covers plastic, they develop moisture and mix with the fumes of the oil that will cause accumulation that look like head gaskets are worn out or blown, but that implies that the head gasket is blown. That doesn't mean that it's blown. A simple compression test can generally let you know if the head gasket is blown or not. Also, there's no bubbling out the reservoir, so I think we're fine with that. There's no pressure in the cooling system when I start it up and leave the cap off, so that's a good indication that there's likely not a head gasket that's blown, but I'm assuming, being that there's plastic here on the cap and on the fill neck, that's likely to cause it. But I'm gonna pull this off after we listen to the noise that it's making. Like I said, if it's broke, it's broke. And it's not going to be fixed. She's been riding like this for a while. So it rattled when I first started up. What I'm going to do is give it a little gas, hold it about to 1500 RPM. You'll hear it rattle again. And when I let off the gas, pressure will build up and it'll subside. There's a rattle noise, and it'll subside once the pressure builds up, just like it did. Alright. But yeah, it'll do that number. I'm not going to keep letting it run. But real quick, I'm going to take this intake, the slash air duct, or this cover thingamabob off of here, and we'll take this fill neck off, inspect that, look at the breather hose, make sure there's no head gasket or oil mixing with the coolant remnants inside the intake. So When I pull this off, we'll just make sure that there's no antifreeze mixed with the oil in the PCV system and in the field neck. Actual recommendations from Identifix is to put transmission fluid in here and see if the noise persists or not. I'll admit, I'm kind of eager to do that because I never put transmission fluid in the engine before, and I really would like to see what happens. So we're going to take a look up in the... This is where it connects to the throttle body. There's no oil, or what looks like antifreeze mixed with oil in there. Put this down here. So here's our PCV system down here at the bottom. Yeah, it does have oil mixing with the coolant inside of the PCV system, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's inside the valve cover. Yeah, this is bad. I really need to change this, but the state of this motor, I think we'll be fine. Put this back in here. It's not going to interfere with anything. So let's take off this field neck. You know, the thing is, it's like, I'm pretty sure if I take the valve cover off, it'll be all up in there. So, and you know, it just might be extremely mildly blown. You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, I've had customers actually mistakenly put coolant or foreign oils in places where it don't belong. So this could be that case. Girl probably put coolant in the antifreeze. I mean, it doesn't sound like it has a blown head gasket, and it's not that much. But then it could be, you know, condensation issues. It is winter. So, but you know, the car does sound normal when it starts up, and head gaskets can blow in so many different ways. So let me get this cleaned up, and let me formulate a game plan. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I really want to put transmission fluid in the engine, especially when I have like the OK go to go do it. So, as far as, I mean, it says to Identifix, and the research that I've done with transmission fluids a while ago, if they will work with engines, makes me assume that it's like totally safe. It's just the viscosity at winter temperatures, or its normal static conditions, is going to be a lesser flow rate. So it probably flows like a 6 in cold conditions, and then when it warms up, it probably goes up to like, I don't know, like a 20 weight or something. But it, you know, it is thinner. It might not be. That's it's thinner, and that's why it's not worth putting it in a vehicle and running it for a prolonged period of time, like driving it, because of the viscosity rating. But it makes a good cleaner because of the cleaning agents inside of it. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't believe that. I mean, I cannot. Transmissions are really clean because of the environment. It doesn't have any type of combustible properties contaminating the fluid, besides the clutches that are in the transmission. But it does get dirty, you know. But it is cleaner than the engine, so it does have better cleaning properties. But that's again because of the because of the environment, you know. But what I'm gonna do, I have transmission fluid that goes to a Honda, my Integra, and I'll give you the synopsis about some of the transmission fluids. Basically, you can look at them like different abrasive, like sandpaper. Some of them are going to be more abrasive than others. Like Chevy has a softer engaging transmission like this particular car. So the transmission fluid is going to have less friction modifiers, meaning that it's going to be less enhancements to ensure better lubricity properties. So it's not going to be as abrasive as a transmission fluid that doesn't have any friction modifiers in it, if that makes sense. So like the import or Honda transmission, since it has a harsher engagement, is going to have a friction modifier in it because of how it harshly engages the clutch packs. Like the older cars, when it shifts, it goes through the transition of gears more instant than the new, like these Chevys. It's a soft engagement. This was a drawback with the Chevy transmissions to why they prematurely go out. Like the 4060Es, when they have the like the servo pistons in there, where it has a cushion to engage the clutch packs. So that's why some people remove those servo pistons when they rebuild the transmission to have a harsher engagement to prolong the life of it. So again, the import transmission fluid has friction modifiers to enhance the lubricity properties to where it wouldn't be required to not have it because of the engagement. So that's good. I'm putting a less abrasive transmission fluid inside of this engine. So I'm going to take this oil filter out and inspect that. And if I can get this camera to go down. So I'm going to pull this oil filter out, see what it looks like. This car is 10,000 miles out of due, like 10,000 miles past due oil change. So it should have been changed 10,000 miles ago to be in its normal interval. So this oil I put for her is like 4,000 miles. So we put a semi-synthetic blend in here, and I try to keep it below the minimum because she's going to be delinquent. But let's take the oil filter out and inspect that. If I can get this in here like so. Gosh. It looks, oh wow, look on the inside of there. I mean, it is a lot of dirt and contamination inside of there. This looks more like the result of, yeah, that oil. Let's put a focus on there. So the oil filter is ruptured. What we're looking at in the back here is the fact it's a result of being ruptured. So what is this in here? That is the sign of a potentially blown head gasket or oil mixed. Not oil, but I know this rag is dirty. Let me see if I can get it down in here. I'll take some brake cleaner to it. Let me put some brake cleaner to it. Alright, I guess I got some good news. I do have an oil filter part number in my oil filter stash for vehicles. So I did use some brake cleaner to clean that out a little bit. I'm not going to change the O-ring or anything. I'm simply just going to pop this oil filter in here, and I'm going to put the transmission fluid in the vehicle and flush it out. So I'm not changing the filter O-ring because I'm going to do a complete oil change after I finish flushing this engine out. So the little oil that's in there is going to help bring up the viscosity of it a little bit. It's not going to be much. So something's better than nothing. I'm like excited. This is like, I feel like it's so okay to be destructive right now, but it's not. So, like, I really always want to do this. This is like so foreign. This is gonna answer a few things for me. Like, what happens? Damn, it ain't show up on the stick. Almost. Let's see what 3 quarts will do. I just don't understand really though how like just letting it run for 5 minutes is really going to do anything. I mean, it would make sense just to like drive the car and putting transmission fluid in there. But like I said, I understand the risk associated with putting transmission fluid in here and driving it because of the viscosity. But you know, if it can be brought up to normal with an adequate amount of transmission fluid in there, like, why not? Yeah, this is normal right here, so. All right. Let's see what happens. So if I put 3 quarts in there and it brought it up to standard, like par standards, then it could have been, what, 2 quarts low? Psych. Probably a little bit more than that, like a quart low. All right, let's start it up. Noise is gone. What I'm going to do, I'm going to monitor the vehicle, make sure the car reaches normal operating temperatures. I will give it a little gas and rev it about 1500 RPM and see if that noise persists or not. Cut it off after it reaches normal operating temperature, see if that noise persists or not, and I'll bring you along with that one. Just a quick update here. So the car was running for about 3 minutes and it stalled. I just started it back up, and it didn't rattle or do anything. So what I wouldn't mind doing right now while it's doing what it's doing, hook up the oscilloscope while it's reaching normal operating temperatures and see what this crank sensor is doing. Again, I did have a P0335, the crank position sensor. So it wouldn't be a bad idea just to go ahead and hook up to the crank sensor and monitor that while it's doing this thing. So I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Alright, I got the oscilloscope, the all-tail hooked up because this is all I can afford here, and it's not a bad scope really. It has its flaws. So right now I'm looking at the crank sensor wire. Again, I'm just going to hook it up because it stalled, and we got a P0335. So I'm going to monitor this while it's doing its flushing of the engine here. So if we look at the connector, I'm assuming let's just say ABC from left to right. So I'm going to show you, I'm hooked up on this yellow wire. I guess to simplify things, let's not confuse ourselves. So I'm hooked up on a yellow wire. It's going to be my signal. Now it's going to be a 5-volt drop-off signal. How do I know this? Simply because when I hook up on the 5-volt reference, on the signal side there's also a 5-volt. So it's a drop-off signal. It pulls the signal to ground like a Chrysler, and that's how we get our feedback or our wave. So I'm going to show you really quick how to determine if you're on a 5-volt reference versus a 5-volt signal. I'm just going to shoot the camera over to the oscilloscope. Here we go. Let's see if we can get I should have left it alone probably. So we're at 0 right now. I don't have this hooked up on anything. I got it on a 20-volt scale just to check the wiring, so we're good. I want to change this down to 10 volts, and it's on DC. We're gonna go back down here to the connector and put it on the one of the outside. So I'm on a far left here. If I can pierce that joker. Just need you to go inside of there. Oh, I don't have the key on. Oh. Alright, keys on, engine off. We have 5 volts here on the scale. And I'm going to show you how to determine if you have bias voltage or not. The bias voltage is going to be the signal, since this is going to be the drop off portion of it. Bias voltage is basically unusable voltage. This test light is grounded. Alright, so we're looking for bias voltage. You can hear the signal as I tap it here. There's action going on here, and also the test light isn't lighting up. It's going to be low amperage on the actual 5-volt reference, but the thing is, there has to be usable current. So this is bias voltage because this test light isn't lighting up. Alright, I'm going to go to the other side here, the other 5 volts I saw. Alright, look at the oscilloscope. It's at 5 volts. And now when I put my test light here, it's very dim like that. So this is actual usable voltage here. And it also doesn't reflect a signal because there's no activity going on in the engine here. So I'm gonna hook this back up. I got me an alligator clip because I got this safety pin going right through it. Just make sure I don't hit anything. But the good thing is it just grounds out, so it's not going to short anything out, so it's not usable signal. So I got the oscilloscope working. I'm just going to clear the codes periodically if anything comes up. And let me go back here. Let's go back. Nope. Wrong finger. Let's go to maxi scope. So I got it on 10 volt DC scale, DC, and it's a 200 millisecond per division. And what I'm gonna do, I want to try to capture a startup cycle and see what happens if I can get it. And what I'll do is update you on what I find, because I might have to sit here for a while and just keep on monitoring it until something happens. So let me see what I can find out, and we'll be back. Wait, oh my gosh, 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 oh my gosh. I got excited. Oh shit, okay, here we go. I'm sorry. I about damn netted on my damn self. I'm like, man, I'm stupid. Alright, there's a drop off right there. There's some discrepancy with the crank sensor. I'm so fucking stupid. Oh gosh, I'm stupid. And I'm hoping this is not noise, but it doesn't look like noise, but it looked like it was pulled to ground severely. So what could be happening is the sensor inside is shorting out. It is like a transistor type circuit, and oh gosh, that is retarded. I'm gonna capture this. Take a snapshot. Yeah. So that's. I wanna look at more of this. I wanna find more of that, and I'm sure that all my wires here are fine. Everything's good. I can't imagine it. You know what? Let's do this, because I erased the code. Let's see if there's any check engine light codes that popped up by seeing that. I know I don't wanna. Oh shit! Did I push? I'm looking through a screen to a screen. Let's see if we got a crank sensor code come up. It fell off. This would be great if we did. Nope. So it probably, you know, and sometimes what happened, the event has to occur for probably like a half second or something, and it probably wasn't long enough to trigger a code, and it probably has to have like a drop-off signal counter. So it's probably what happens, or is probably a logical explanation of why we don't have a code. So I'm gonna leave that be, and we're gonna go back to that. Let me go back. I just want to make sure that it wasn't me that was doing it, because I'm touching something or anything like that. It could have been me, but that's like a legitimate drop off. That's what you'll want to see if there's a fault. And like I said, it could have been like a counter. Again, I mean, it might not have counted itself, had enough faults to detect the problem. So I'm going to continue to monitor it, and if anything else happens, I'll take another snapshot and pause it. Alright, got the so after running for several minutes, I'm going to go ahead and pull the oil filter out and inspect that, and then drain the oil. I think the oil filter should give us, I guess give the viewers something to look at as far as the quality of the oil, especially being it's a new filter I put in there. And I'll go grab a new oil filter, drain the oil, and put fresh oil in here. But as far as the signals, and I'm taking into consideration that she doesn't want to dump a lot of money into it, because oh shit, what am I doing this for? Let's go to gallery, because I gotta take that into consideration. So we saw the drop off, like the sensor was pulling the ground. And looking at my connectors, I'm pretty confident that it wasn't me doing that, and being that the pin down there is pretty far from the ground, I think we're fine. I think this is the legit drop off signal. Now this is me moving the connector, the crank sensor connector. And again, I'm monitoring if there's a close ground or whatever. This isn't a grounded signal. This is just, being as a drop-off signal, this is just indicating that there's a loss in signal also, so the voltage is high. Other than that, I think it'll be safe to replace the crank sensor from the stalling conditions and seeing the signals drop off, and at some point just jiggling the wire and it losing the signal. I mean, I feel good replacing the crank sensor. That rattling noise is remedied after doing the flush or adding fluid. So let me get logged in here, and so I'm in the special feature with the bi-directional feature of the scan tool. So I'm gonna see if I can do a relearn for the crankshaft and see what happens. Let's see if we can follow directions here. Accelerate wide open throttle. Release the throttle if fuel cut occurs. First information. RPM value for fuel cutoff. Alright. Engine acceleration should not exceed calibrated RPM value. Release the throttle at once when the value is outnumbered. Refer to 17. Alright, block the wheels. Do not apply brake. Cycle off to on. Apply, hold down brake pedal. Start an idle engine. Turn off AC. It's off. So I'm going to rev this, accelerate to wide open throttle. Release if fuel cut occurs. Okay, so learn status is learn. Disignition, press escape. So it accepted it, the relearn procedure. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna I want to just let her ride a little bit with the oil change, since it's got new oil and filter, and see if it continues to have this issue. Because I mean, a lot of these issues are generally remedied because of lack of maintenance, and especially being this car is hella neglected, and she's on a budget. We can see what happened with the fresh oil change, because it's a possibility the crank sensor might not be bad, and what it is just probably contaminants on the head of the sensor. So we got no fault codes here. So let's take a look at the oil filter. Oh man, let's see if I can get Alright. This is the inside of the cap. It does still have a little bit of remnants of fluid build up, coolant. So here's the filter. Just pulled out with the flush. So it's not bad at all. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get all that old oil drain out, get a new filter in there, and oh shit, I'm screwing up in life. So get the new oil filter in there, and I think we'll ride it out. You know, this is like obvious neglect of maintenance. Let's take a look at the oil fill cap, and yeah, it does have more buildup of coolant or antifreeze, mix some of that oil. I mean, it's not like really obvious in the oil. I'll take a better look at it when I drain it, and I'll make a better determination from there. Let's pull the dipstick. It's not on a dipstick either. Wait, what's that? The hell is this? Yeah, it's more in there. Well, again, I mean, you know, taking into consideration budget, but you know, it is. Whew, this is what happened when you when a person neglects their vehicle. So I mean, nothing can be done about it. But again, this car has 245,000 miles, and mind you, this car has been through several lengthy neglectful oil change intervals. So I mean, it's still running, and we'll see how long it lasts. I'm gonna go ahead and get this oil drain. So that's the transmission fluid that's coming out. It's gonna be overwhelmingly black because of the neglect to be changed. I mean, it had like it's kind of like it's not a reddish tint. It really doesn't look like transmission fluid at all. So, and I guess the good thing is, I mean, we're not seeing any type of coolant oil mix in the oil. So I think that's a positive there. So again, we still got coolant mixed with the oil, like at the top here. And I talked to the customer, man. She did say that, you know, nobody put anything in it. Oh shit! Obviously, I mean, if that was the case, I mean, it would have been worse. But the plan is to She's gonna drive for a week and come back. We'll go from there as far as what needs to be done. If the stalling conditions are repaired or not, because she's definitely gonna get something newer next year. So she's waiting to ride out this year, literally. Alright, so we got the oil changed, and I'm going to reset the oil by turning the key on and off. There we go. So we're going to turn the key off and on, and press the accelerator pedal 100% 3 times within 5 seconds. It should be done now. Oil life 100%. Cool. Let's go back. There you go. Oil life 100%. We'll go back over there. I'm rushing. So yeah, you just push the accelerator pedal down 3 times within 5 seconds. We're good. So we got Betsy taken care of. She's running. So I don't know how long, but it's working. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, this, like I said, this girl had a bittersweet luck with vehicles. I don't know how it's bittersweet if she's literally been driving this thing and neglecting the purity fuck out of it. But hey, it still works, right? I mean, I don't know how it works. I mean, I have women come out with ball tires and they still living. Like, you don't hydroplane, you know? So, but it, you know, she don't have this issue. Her tires are fine. It's just the under the hood maintenance. Nothing uncommon. But you can lead a horse to water. Just gonna put it that way, which can't make them drink. So it's one of those metaphors. But other than that, even though we looked at the crank sensor and saw it fall off, I'm hoping that it wasn't me. And I'm assuming that it's not me, because I know I've been having some issues with my all-tail, just grounding out the positive side circuit for some strange reason. I don't understand why I do that, but hopefully that wasn't that case. But I have been having some discrepancies with my all-tail maxi scope. But we're gonna hold off on the crank sensor, just ride it for a week. She's gonna come back. I'm gonna check the oil, make sure everything's fine, not stalling. And if it continues, then we'll go to the next step as far as changing the crank sensor. Interesting thing, I've put transmission fluid in the motor before, just 1 quart before I flushed it. But honestly, personal perception, that shit don't do nothing to me. Like, it doesn't stimulate the mind as far as like actual legitimate flush, because I'll talk another day about how I feel about oil additives. But had some rattling noise, had some P0335, the crank position sensor codes. That was obviously remedied, part of it, due to the inadequate oil. We heard the noise, added oil, fixed the problem. When I did flush the system, I did let it sit and idle. I didn't drive it, but I did rev it up a little bit. So there was some oil in there to aid in bringing up the viscosity. This car is going to be shipped off tomorrow, so I'm gonna do a little test drive before I give it away. But I did put the oil change sticker at 3,000 miles, so hopefully we can get it changed a little bit more premature than 15,000 miles like this time. So, but we'll see what happens. And as far as the subscriptions or subscribers or the people who watch the content, you're not going to know if you're not subscribed. So hit that subscription, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have that reassurance of my work, and see you on the next one.